Welcome to the Energy Diagnostics Podcast, only on Bold Brave TV. Join award-winning educator and sound healer Joy Adler and musician and teacher turned energy healer Dan Zavadil as they dive deep into the world of alternative healing, music, and sound therapy. With over 30 years of holistic health expertise, Joy brings wisdom and heart to every episode. And Dan, from the classroom and healing table to playing bass on the Today Show, he bridges rhythm and restoration. Tune in for inspirational conversations with masters in the field of transformation who share tools to empower your journey of self-discovery and wellness through music for healing.
Hey Dan, we're back.
We did it.
They let us back. They let us back, Dan.
We must be doing
We
something
are.
right.
Listen, we are we are so excited today and very blessed. We have a master in the midst, as I say. Tarik Shah is joining us, and this is a conversation you don't want to miss, friends.
Yeah.
You know, Dan and I, an Energy Diagnostics Podcast on Bold Brave TV, are all about bringing the masters of healing and sound to our viewers. And this is a major event. Tarik Shah is known the world over for 50 years of music, right?
Yeah.
Decades with masters. And so we have to tell the audience what we experienced. We're over in Kripalu and we're teaching,
Right.
yeah. And we meet up with friends, and all of a sudden, this goddess of sound, this diva extraordinaire, whose name is Wanda Houston, a very famous woman. Oh my gosh!
Right.
And she begins playing with her pianist and bassist, and that's when we are introduced to the essence and the luminescence of Tarik.
Yeah.
And so we are all, Dan and Tarik are talking after the show. We can't even break them
Right.
up. They're talking all things bass.
Listen, you share pictures of your basses like you would share pictures of your kids, right? Like you're like, oh, look at this one. Oh, look at
Apparently,
this one. I guess apparently, right? Well, I think the funniest thing is like Joy and I had been teaching all day at Kripalu, and we and friends of ours, and we're like, let's just let's go somewhere and find a nice quiet place to have a nice meal together, everybody. We can talk, we can do our thing. And we get there and we walk in, it's nice and quiet. And then they go, oh, you're here for the show? And we were like, uh, what do you mean?
I guess
And
we
then
are.
I guess we are. And then the place fills up, and unbeknownst to us, we wind up with the best seats in the house.
Best
Right up,
seats.
right in the middle. But yeah, then Wanda Houston comes in, and Tarik and the keyboardist there just put on a clinic. And so engaging. And of course, I see a great bassist going at it, and I'm enamored. And they want to. Joy and I are sitting next to each other, like, can you believe this? So much for a quiet meal, but this is amazing. This
It's
is the
great.
this is the best part of the day. Yeah, they took a break, and I had to go up and introduce myself to Tarik, and like, listen, just watching him play is a treat. He is so in the zone, so happy. You can tell he is just, this is his thing. He is in it, just in it,
And when we
right?
finally got a word in with the two of you, like talking all things bass and showing the babies, the pictures, the basses,
Right.
he looks up to us and he says, when I play, it's my therapy.
Yeah.
And I got chills, and I was like, this is somebody we really want to feature on the show. And also as a treat for you, Dan, and also
Okay.
our viewers, because as we studied about Tarik, we're like, oh my goodness, this is really someone who's walking the earth to make a difference. Every
Hmm.
note he plays, and the joy and the exuberance of him performing, like he just allows himself to be completely revealed and vulnerable in the performance in the song. and it fills the room, and then you add Wanda Houston to it, please. We're pinching ourselves and going, wow, we're really aligned with synchronicity tonight, because we were just going to have a quiet meal and we're being treated to the best seats in the house of the only show that you want to be seeing tonight. So from touring with Betty Carter and Pharoah Sanders to playing the Clinton and Orgue with the Duke Ellington Orchestra, my friends, Tarik's stories are woven into the fabric of jazz history. And now he's mentoring the next generation. He's a master educator. He's a sensei, and he's right here in the capital region, but he is a person of the globe, of the world. And so you want to check out TarikShah.com. But more than that, we want to stop talking about it. We want to show you what we're talking about.
Good afternoon, or good evening now, right?
Smoking.
Yeah.
Hey, that gig was for a very dear friend of mine. It was a memorial concert for the wife of the great bass player Henry Grimes, Margaret Davis Grimes. That was his wife. And they were both dear friends of mine. And I got called to do that because Margaret spoke about me so much to her family, and I had never met her daughters, that when she passed on, her daughters called the Jazz Foundation of America and said, "Can you get Tarik to do the memorial concert for our mother?" And I was honored to do it. And I did it with my good friends. The drummer is more like one of my proteges, the young drummer. He's from up here. He lives in Glen Falls, Matt Nabalski.
Okay.
Great drummer too, great musician. But that guy who was out front in the red, that is literally, I would say that that's my big brother. And we're not blood. Him and I have been playing together since 1979.
Whoa.
Last week, he just made 71 years old. And we played a gig together this past Saturday also. And he's, that's Alvin Winky Flight. And the piano player, 40 years friend, Tim Ragusis. And I had just recently met Joy Brown, the vocalist, but I thought she's come so much out of the style of Dinah Washington that I was like, oh,
Right.
come on, Joy, do this with me, you know? And so I had a great band. It was easy. And literally the family and friends that came for Margaret's memorial were in tears.
Wow.
Really, it was such a heartfelt moment.
That's amazing.
I just wanted to make sure you knew what that was.
No, that's
what
perfect.
that was.
That's great. If you're right, spreading the gratitude around for everybody there, and I watched a lot of that, a few different clips from that on your website. But it's amazing hearing you tell that story. I mean, by watching it, you can see you guys have played together more than once. But these friendships we make through music can last a lifetime. I have a friend of mine I met, when I was 17, and I don't see him all the time. But when we run into each other, it's like we were just hanging out yesterday,
Yes.
Right. And that music can make those relationships that just cross the boundaries, and there's something intangible about it when we meet familiar souls in music, right?
Yes.
Musical kin. I like that, Dan. You know what I loved was when they were turning, and I had the screen moved up to your solo, Tarik, and they're all turned like all in awe. You're all unified, but they're just in complete appreciation of what you're bringing in those moments. That's a
Yes.
lovely clip. Nice job, Dan, on that clip.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's hard to pick just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I have many too. Yeah, I've been so busy lately. Been doing some gigs, but I also work on an organic cut flower farm.
Oh.
And yes. And so it is springtime. And if you know how busy farmers are in the springtime, you would not even go to a farm and say, hey, man, you want to hang out and go to the movies? Farmer would say, man, it's springtime. I got too much work to do. No, not now. ask me in the winter or at the very end of fall,
Right.
We can hang out on the tractor if you want, but guess what? It's not happening. Right. Yeah, picking flowers.
Yes.
How does that support what you do, being that connected with the earth on the organic farm? Does it?
Yes, greatly. Dealing with just everyone's trials and tribulations in life in general. You need some time to really be alone with yourself and reflect. And on the farm, for instance, I don't get bothered by the people I work for at all. They write me a text, say, we need you to do this. I take the tractor, warm it up, and I go out and do what I need to do. They need deliveries. I go pack up the van and do the flower deliveries and things like that. And they trust me. So one of the things, first I'm going to go to music, is that in music, when we're striving for excellence and pushing ourselves to practice, that transferable skill of self-motivation and the discipline it takes to do something every day is a transferable skill to anything. So one of the things about the farm particularly, though, is that it makes me have more endurance and forbearance, because I turn the soil. I use these things called discs that break up things in the soil. I make the planting beds. I take the women out to put the flowers in the ground, and it's not an immediate process. So you get to go through this whole process up until, and even the process, let's say, of the summer, which is a time where you have to protect. Now those weeds come up, you have to make sure there's water, and it's an organic flower farm, which I like, because then I don't have to deal with chemicals.
Right.
But all of this process teaches you to look at putting in the work for the harvest in the end. And it's not immediate at all. It made me look at things in a different manner.
It's that delayed gratification, right? Right, like the plants.
I get a certain amount of gratification every day, because of the toil and struggle of like even honest work and being in nature. It does something for you. Even being in the sunlight, getting that natural vitamin D instead of, taking some pharmaceutical vitamin D, or something like that. I mean, it's yes, but the harvest in the end, or with me delivering the flowers, that were done, because I don't do the harvest myself, but delivering the flowers that were harvested, that I did the things in the field and helped them put the flowers in the ground, it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
You're delivering the beauty that you've helped to cultivate. And made me curious as you were just sharing that, if it's a metaphor of life in a way, as we plant seeds and the time of growth and the time that it takes.
What spring, time of work, right? And planning. Summer, time of like nutrition and protection, meaning the weeds, right? All of this can be applied to life, right? And different stages of life, although we can take the season to do that. Fall time of harvest. Also, you look at your harvest, and then you look at what you might need for next year. You start looking for sales of equipment you might need and things like that. And then cleaning up to get your farm organized. Winters can be harsh. They can be mild. They can be long. They can be short. But the winter, meaning getting through your hard times and your trials and tribulations.
Yep.
We want to talk about some trials and tribulations that you yourself have experienced, Tarik. And we're so curious about how everything that you did as a discipline. I love that word. I read that in your website too. Like, you were taught to be disciplined about your practice, about, cultivating yourself as a musician and soul in the world. And I wonder how that supported you in that dark night of the soul, or in that winter of your life when, it was hard times. I love the example of weeds too, because, as we're growing, we need guidance, we need support, because like I see the weeds as, there's weeds everywhere, we got to pull the weeds out. We've got to recognize what is a weed. We got the fakers and the takers. We have the, it just kind of reminds me of that whole planting thing. I think you're kind of bringing in that vibration, but we want to get into that a little bit more. You were born into an amazing lineage. You're a legend yourself. And you were peacefully playing, and massive recordings, concerts, and suddenly your life got derailed and stopped suddenly because of things that were going on in the world that you personally were held accountable for. And I wonder if you can share with our viewers a little bit about that winter, in time of your life, taken at the prime of your life as a political prisoner, how long that lasted, and just share a little bit about that, because you have a documentary that just came out on you. It's a big deal. So maybe you could share with our viewers a little bit about that before we go to our first break.
Yes, well, I was a political prisoner in the federal government for 13 years, dealing with the time of right after 9/11. Unfortunately, our government was on witch hunts, not for people that were planning anything, not for people holding any nefarious plot against the U.S., myself included. I'm a jazz musician and I'm a martial artist. I got approached by what they call a CI, a confidential informant. And usually these CIs are guys that have done something against the law, or they have been locked up and then they choose to work for the FBI. The FBI puts them to work. And a lot of these guys are master actors and things like this. So this guy came to me as a bass student, literally, to take bass lessons. And for the time of the setup, basically, he kept our conversations based in political things. What was happening in Afghanistan at the time? What was happening in Iraq with the WMDs that were never found when we were told there were WMDs in Iraq? The things that were happening in Darfur, up in Sudan. The things that were happening in Somalia with the civil wars in Somalia. So I was born Muslim, and I did not like these things. I did not like seeing Muslim brothers and sisters being slaughtered and things being just taken like that. So I wasn't out giving speeches. But this guy, he kept our conversations based that way. So I befriended this guy for real. He was older than me. I really befriended him. And I didn't look any particular type of strange way about the conversations. And this is basically the way that they set me up. So I did 13 years in federal prison as a political prisoner for a charge which they called conspiracy to provide material support to a known foreign terrorist organization. Let's say also known as Al-Qaeda, right? But how did they set me up? I am a professor of jiu-jitsu, right? I had been divorced when I had been married. I had children, had child support, had debts with child support. And they approached me to teach some ghosts, people I've never met, people I didn't teach, and I never got paid a cent. So in fact, I didn't do anything. You see? And this is the way that they utilized the time period, because the government was doing something called preempted prosecution, meaning if they thought that someone thought a certain way and they might do X, Y, and Z, then under the Patriot Act, they could preempt the prosecution on this person. For me, it was the part of the Patriot Act that deals with teaching a specific skill or giving specific type of assistance to someone deemed by America as a terrorist. So for me, how did that happen? Not martial arts particularly, because the head FBI agent codenamed what I did white weaponry and told me he wanted me to teach specifically knife fighting. So not martial arts as a whole. So he made it a Patriot Act charge through what he did. But I had a school in Harlem for 10 years. I'll teach anybody that paid me. If the feds came to me to teach them, I would have taught them.
Right. So, you're talking about the weeds, right? The fakers and the takers, and having to be careful. So here you are with a good heart. You're in a position of authority because a person comes to you as a student and the person is older than you. You have respect for the elders. You're thinking this is someone that you can connect with, have good conversation with, in addition to being a student and, just being able to freely speak. And what I'm hearing is that, there was immense coercion. This is premeditated. This was obviously recorded. This was a manipulated situation. And I wonder how you were able and how you work with the betrayal. You have multiple betrayals going on here, and coercion and the injustice we can't even begin to comprehend.
Yeah.
But I wonder what helped you in those moments. And we're going to come back after our sponsors, and we want to hear what it was that supported you, Tarik, to get from there and out after 13 years and into the grace of all that you're doing now. We will return on Energy Diagnostics Podcast with the amazing Tarik Shah.
Escape the chaos of daily life. Hit the reset button and find serenity at Body Mind Restoration Retreats. For over 3 decades, Body Mind Retreats has been a haven for those seeking peace, wellness, and personal transformation. Nestled within the tranquil 60-acre Ithaca Zen Center in New York's Finger Lakes region, our retreats offer a sanctuary for rejuvenation. Our warm-hearted environment, cultivated over years of heartfelt service, feels like coming home to family, fostering a healthier state of body and mind.
Here we are at the Body Mind Restoration Retreat in outstanding Ithaca, New York. And I'm here with someone who has been coming here for a long time. Hello, Kat. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences at Body Mind?
Well, honestly, I've been coming here for 29 years, doing this same retreat. Every year, I look forward to it. It stays in my sense memory. Honestly, I'm 76 years old. I don't know that I'd be alive without it, honestly. So it's one of the most beautiful things one can do for oneself, and it's ongoing only during the summer. And of course, it's really indescribable, delicious, nutritious for the body and soul, and something you will hold in your heart forever.
Thank you, Kat. As we look at these hallowed grounds, surely it is heaven on earth. If you feel like you could work to live a better life, want to reset for your health, please join us at Body Mind Restoration Retreat. Revitalize, bring yourself back to balance, body, mind, spirit.
Immerse yourself in nature with 2 spring-fed ponds, serene forests, and peaceful streams. Enhance your well-being through yoga, meditation, and a nourishing vegan raw foods diet. Join us to detoxify, nourish, and restore your body and mind. Register by April 1st and enjoy a 10% discount. Visit bodymindretreats.com for more information.
And we are back. Speaking of beautiful land, body mind, right? You know what's
Yes.
really interesting about that land too is it's really sacred, and all land is sacred, of course. But talking about farming and things, Tariq, that is the land where all 5 tribes of the Mohawk would join for their autumn equinox celebration. And it's right next to the Zen Center in Ithaca. And you walk in this land, and I mean, there's just magic things happening. It's very special. So glad to play that for David and his tribe up there that are going to be running that all. And that's where we go to purify our systems, right, Dan? So anyways, purifying our systems, we're going to do that. We want to talk about how you are doing that and using your music to heal yourself after being unjustly accused, placed in a federal penitentiary, right? And for 13 years. Tariq, I have to ask you, you didn't have a base in prison. How did you express, or did you express?
Acoustic, like the acoustic bass guitars, Yeah, they had those there. They had those, like they had some acoustic guitars also. And when I finally got down to a lower level of security, they had pianos and some other things, drums, and I taught basically in jail. I taught I taught musicians. I taught them harmony. I taught them theory. I taught them how to practice. If they wanted to know about other things in jazz and some history, I taught. That's what I did. And because that was my place and my calling there. I wrote a course called Harmony, Improvisation, and How to Practice. A 2-part
Wow.
course. Yes.
Right.
Sounds like some time well spent in terms of giving. Here you were in a situation and your life, stopped where it was, and you didn't stop giving to those around you, which is pretty much the generosity we see of you playing, just your unique essence. Want to hear from you how you heal from such wounds of betrayal and injustice. And is that informing this next album?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So there's that. But here, first of all, it's a choice not to be vindictive and vengeful. It's a direct type of choice. Personally, I choose not to try to change the things that I cannot change. I choose to change the things that I can change. And first on that list is me. You see?
Is that part of your martial arts sensibility, the being able to center within yourself, that comes to play or supports you in this effort?
In a way, it's part of Islam and a part of the martial arts, in the sense of having a good foundation. And in the art, like I'm a professor of jujitsu, so redirecting the larceny coming at you, and that's a very big part of it. Off balancing the opponent, also very big part of it, because you can't throw someone who's standing strong. You have to off balance them. So that's and the first thing, I had a teacher, who told me once, and his name was Kareem Muhammad. Matter of fact, before he became Muslim, his name was James Purnell. He was one of the first black men to win the Judo Nationals. And he would say that avoidance is the best way to be. He said, even as much, or as in this situation, to where you got a bunch of people, he would say, so if you can run. But if you got a bunch of people like about to surround you and there's some dog poop on the ground, if you can get your hands in the dog poop and rub it on yourself to stop the situation, then do it so you can get away and you don't have to harm anyone or be harmed. So
centered power, instead of being a centered power and doing what you can to avoid, right, that type of thing, as opposed to abusing power, which is what you suffer
and
from.
It's taking detours, And in jail, I learned how to take detours, because it's an alpha male kind of thing, and not really. I mean, I'm not gonna say really alpha male, but in the sense of that people wanted to huff and puff and see who's stronger, puff with their chest out, see who they can bully, see who they can take advantage of. Fortunately, I was very safe from that, because nobody really wanted to mess with me, because the guards talked a whole lot about, hey, Shah, that guy's the most dangerous man on the compound. And they wouldn't even want to find out, because they believed the police in the jail more than they believed each other. So, like, let's say if they heard stories from me, they wouldn't believe it, but they heard it from the guards.
Then it has some power and some energy, right? Like,
yes,
you're not going to test that. Oh, that's amazing. So, speaking of which, there was an amazing article from the Times-Union, which is our capital district main paper, right?
Yes.
Global paper with great respect. And you want to check that out, friends. And you're going to check out Tarik Shah's website for more information. But we have to share what that was about, because there was a big debut of the documentary Don't Play Like Them, which you are the subject of, Tarik. And that was debuted at the Writers Institute of New York, SUNY Albany. How was that for you? You want to share a little bit about that before we show a trailer of that?
Well, it was touching. I'm going to just go right to how the end affected me. Of course, sitting there watching it again was something, because I had already previewed it. But the reaction of the people afterward, like about a 15-minute standing ovation. And yes, and that blew my mind. You know, and many people showed up who I knew and people who I did not know, but many people in the Capital District who I knew, musicians, fans, people that have come out to the clubs to hear me play at different times. It was a packed house. And the reaction, like I said, it melted my heart, you know?
Was that healing?
Yes, I am hoping it's healing in the way that, for me, it's time to control my own narrative, you know, and not have my narrative controlled by other people. It hasn't been easy since I've been home, and that's just the truth. I'm not crying the blues about it or anything. I'm a fighter. But I don't get hired by a lot of the musicians because of the talk on the other sides. Even to be back in the industry the way I was getting hired, it's not happening. So for me, what it does is it let me know that, hey man, focus on building yourself as a solo artist, as a leader, because this is what you must do now. And you can't depend on things the way they used to be, because they're not that way anymore. And your life has changed, and you have this label following you that no one knows how to deal with. They are scared. They are terrified. They'll deal with someone quicker who came out as a rapist, who came out as an arsonist, who came out as a murderer, who came out as a bank robber. They would quickly deal with that because it's something that they're used to hearing, than terrorists, someone who has a label following them of terrorists. They don't know how to deal with it. So people are afraid. They're afraid that somehow hiring me is going to mess with their finances or their traveling or stuff like that. But I did the time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you said a couple of things that that were really key, pardon the pun, for your musical masters, but that it was your faith and it was your martial arts, right? Master of Jiu-Jitsu, specific form, and also of being a Muslim that really supported you to get through these times. You had a strong foundation, I heard you say.
Yes. So when I speak about Islam, for me, Islam is the way to strive for human excellence. That's what it is for me. And I learned something, especially, I was in isolation for 31 months. I really learned something in isolation, and which is totally illegal, if y'all know about the international stuff for torture and stuff like that. It's way beyond. So I realized that I'm a creature totally in need. I realized that I'm weak, meaning that everything that I have, from my eyesight to my hearing to my ability to speak and stand and eat and digest food and relieve myself and things like that, I don't sustain. I don't sustain my own heartbeat. What I can't see, the air that we breathe in. I didn't make the air or keep the air. So all of those things, to ponder on those things, it just made me realize a great deal about my own human condition and everyone's human condition, whether they realize it or not. You know, we all have the same amount of time. People say, what are you talking about? I say, I have 12 hours. You have 12 hours in a day, right? No one has less than that or more than that. And that's what I mean about the same time. So it's about what we do with it, because time is priceless and we can't get it back.
Mastery. You know, I appreciate you sharing that, because when I originally read it, you know what I read, which was wrong? I read 31 days, because when I went back to it and read that it was what? Not 31 days, 31 weeks. It was, because I know it's illegal. It almost was hard to take in. So I appreciate you sharing that. Like, here's somebody who has to go within to connect with his own soul and himself for that time of solitary confinement, and to find the source within, you know. And I just get curious about how that has informed your music, if it has.
Yes. So the bass, maybe without me realizing it when I was younger, right now is entirely and totally my source of therapy daily. To have my fingers on the bass is my happy place. And I tell you something about it, but beyond a happy place, thinking about this guy taping me every day for over 2 years in order for the feds to be able to set me up on what I thought in my head and felt in my heart. The bass is my safe zone of being able to get it out, whatever I feel inside. Because if you say something and a person tapes it, they can play it back to you, say, you said this on this date. Or even they might come back to you and you say, you said this on this day, because they heard you say something. From the bass, and me being sincere about playing it out, they can just say, you said, I mean, yeah, that was it. I'm only held responsible to them enjoying it.
Wow, the language of music.
Oh, it's so
Can't
good.
do anything with this. That's amazing. What a great way to express too.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on having that time alone. Really, you seeing the two sides of the really the frailty of our human condition, right? We need the air. Something else is making our heart beat and doing these making our bodies work. So the frailty there, but also you found the strength, right? So it's almost two things that don't make sense that should go together, but you were able to find both of those and realize that and be like, wait, there's strength in here for me to be aware of the frailty gives me the strength to choose to move forward.
How about this, Dan? That I admitted that I have no power or strength, but the one who created me and sustains me is the all-powerful one with strength. And if I would have counted on myself for one moment, I was going to fail. So I counted on him. Period.
I just got chills.
You know?
Yeah.
That's it. So it's really the admittance of one's, and not only the admittance, but the realities of one's total being a creature in need. And that's everything. The flowers, the plants, the dog, the possum, human beings. You see what I'm saying? The birds. We are all creatures in need. Yeah. We have to eat. We have to sleep. We have to, it's so many things that show. It's proof.
It's like surrendering to the truth of our human frailty and needing to connect with a force greater than ourselves. Well, we want to share about your documentary before we go on our next break, because this is going to be coming to a theater near you, my friends, and you'll be able to download this, stream it, and share about this, because this is a very important film. Let's watch this incredible clip of the documentary.
Is it a crime to despise injustice? My name, Tarik Shah.
He started playing pretty young.
At the age of 17, I got to play with the great Dizzy Gillespie.
Played with Duke Ellington, Eddie Henderson, the great Abbey Lincoln,
Clinton's inaugural ball.
Betty Carter.
Betty, she said, look, study them, the great musician, but don't play like them.
It's instantaneously obvious that here is a master of this instrument.
There is a cross-pollination with music and martial arts. The offer was for me to teach martial arts to some brothers. I did not realize at that point that I had been their target since as far back as 2001.
If there's a 1% chance that they might attack us, we have to go after them first.
The government really wanted to get Tarik.
Yo, your man just got arrested. I'm like, excuse me?
So I knew something was very wrong.
They targeted Muslims. They were all terrorists, according to them, and we're gonna prove it.
Tarik was in solitary confinement under really horrible conditions.
I was in there for 31 months.
What the government did to Tarik Shah, I think, was immoral.
That is torture.
You would actually go insane.
No one should suffer like that.
I didn't want the aspect of jail to change my character.
There's a contingent in the music world that's against him.
To have the reputation that you were in jail for some kind of terrorist act.
I have to be a leader and sort of stand alone in this and make my own way.
Yeah.
Wow. Don't play like them.
That's something for Betty Carter for sure.
Mm.
When I worked with Betty, I mean, I still learned from those lessons. Those lessons were great. You know, Betty was always pushing us to come up with something fresh and new. That's what she wanted for herself, but she wanted it for us too, for the music to be able to grow. You know?
Never play it the same way twice, right? Listen,
Yeah,
folks,
that's right.
this may be a continued conversation. There's so much here. And, we really want to stand for support of Tarik, who is a master and deserves to have the platform. If you are able to hire his group, you want to go to his site. If you would like to learn from this master, go to his site, tarikshah.com/teaching. He's doing it all. He tours all over. And if we have a way to support, we all are part of this. We are all in this together. And if you have a way to make a difference, you have an event, you have an important fundraiser, you want the vibration of mastery at your event, this is the person to connect with, to hire, and to lead, right, with heart. And with a connection to soul. And as Dan and I were the happy witnesses to, if you want to know what happiness is, it's being in the presence of Tarik Shah playing bass in real time, in the moment, in his music. And we want to thank you for today and sharing what you did. And if there's anything that you would want to say to end our show, Tarik, on Bold Brave TV, Energy Diagnostics Podcast, what would you want to share with our viewers?
Basically, what I think about every day is that focus on what you can change. The things you cannot change, it's a waste of time to be thinking about that and focusing on that too much. But with oneself striving for virtuous character, looking at one's flaws and developing excellence in those things. And that's the thing, just strive for excellence. We're not going to be perfect, but strive for excellence for yourself, for your immediate family, for your neighbors, for your community, for the world community. Strive for excellence. Just become the best human being that you can be.
Love it.
Alignment with your positive intention. We love that message, don't we, Dan?
We do. And Tarik, anything coming up? Any shows? I know you were just down in Delaware over the weekend, but what do you got coming up real quick?
I'm at Stella's the last two Saturdays of the month.
Okay.
Up in Schenectady, and I have some other things around, like in Massachusetts and stuff like that, the Berkshires. And I have something on Juneteenth coming up with Wanda and Chantel. We're going to be doing something, not only performing, but we're sort of doing a play, and all three of us are playing a part of a play. You know?
And she's quite the actress extraordinaire and a thespian. She was amazing. We look forward to that. TarikShah.com. And he's also active on social media, and he puts up posts occasionally of where he's going to be performing.
Yes. The last two Saturdays of this month, I'll be up at Stella's. Stella's Pasta Bar and Bistro in Schenectady.
Nice.
Great. Good to know, people. Listen, it's worth a trip from anywhere. Thank you for joining us on Energy Diagnostics Podcast, Bold, Brave TV. We want to thank our guest today for joining Dan and I on Energy Diagnostics Podcast on Bold Brave TV. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of these life-changing and transformative episodes. We'll see you soon.